In the stellar queendom of Rhea, the Sisters of the Host do all they can to protect the hearts and lives of its people. Rhea, spanning most of the known galaxy, is beset by forces within and without who would drag all into oblivion and despair. Aliens of uncertain intent traverse the queendom's borders, all while internal hatred and distrust would tear the people apart, as older, fouler things in the darkness wait to see their plans birth a terrible future. The hosts are the creations of the Dreaming Queen, mystically and genetically endowed super soldiers that give heart and body to protect the Queen and her people. Come and join us for their stories. Hello, subjects, and welcome back to Rose&Crescent, Episode 3. I'm Isaac, your Royal Herald, aka your GM, and with me are my players. Who wants to go first? Please introduce yourself, your host, and what your character's favorite weapon is.
Hi, my name is JP. You can find me online as Evil Tendencies. I am playing tonight Petra of the Stalwart Grove, and alongside her is Clarabella, her custom battle rifle.
Hey, it's Ira, and I'm playing Alicia Schneider of the Daughters of Harmony, and her favorite weapon is the hammer, because she likes to get to the point.
Greetings, I'm Rin. I play Chiyako of the Silent Luminaries. Chiyako doesn't have a favorite weapon. Pretty much anything that gets the job done. I suppose to narrow it down, perhaps anything that does slicing and piercing. Good old stab and twist.
Now for a brief recap.
Last time on Rose&Crescent.
Alyssa, Petra, and Chiyako have been told of the Kaemon's grievance at the attack on their tree, investigate, and scout around, eventually coming upon an errant signal in the colony. There they discovered a mercenary observer posing as a lost traitor. These mercenaries have provoked the Kaemon into attacking the colony. After revealing this to the Kaemon prisoners, an understanding was reached. So you've reached an accord with Hara and Denon. Well, Hara, Denon's still kind of out of it, what with both arms getting, forcibly relocated back into their proper place. But Hara has agreed to show you, and by you she means the host sisters, where their tree is. And hopefully deal with the mercenaries, the Void Dragons, who have been attacking and trying to get into something that's under the tree, the specifics of which you have not been made aware of. Do you want to cut directly to the ship, or is there anything you want to take care of before heading out?
I certainly have no issues going straight to the ship. I would say, at least I think, that we've more or less wrapped things up here.
Alrighty then. In that case, you call the sisters back, and they start filing onto Alonia's heart. As they're filing in, you do notice Caitlin walking up. She's talking with that one boy you terrorized and then, tried to break his dreams previous session. And he seems to be much more lively than the last time you saw him. But, that's something for later. So you assemble up. Aishlin, your scout and saboteur, comes up, salutes. Where are we heading, ma'am?
All right, is the Kaemon prisoner with us?
See.
I guess she's not a prisoner anymore. Is the Kaemon guest with us?
The Kaemon guests are present, both Hara and Denon. Hara is the one that you made the agreement with, as Denon was unconscious.
And Denon is finally awake?
He is, and despite his issue with his arms, he is helping Hara hobble forward onto the ship. The sisters are giving this a strange eye, and they look to you two. And by you two, I mean Alyssa and Petra.
Petra just looks at them, gives a cocked eyebrow as if to say, if you're going to say something, say it. Otherwise, shut up.
At which point Aishlin nods, and the others do a right step and then file onto the ship after them. You all load up onto the ship. You go to the bridge. You see the good Captain Eofred sitting in his commander's chair. Do we have a heading? He asks. At this point, Hara comes in and is looking around the bridge, inspecting it. Judging by the look on her face, she is less than pleased, but circumstances are circumstances. She puts her hand on the bulkhead, closes her eyes. She seems to be feeling the ship. And then when she opens her eyes again, she goes, I always heard human ships had no heart, but still a strange feeling. At which point, the good captain stands up from his chair, looks at her, and says, I'll have you know the ship has quite the heart to it. It's even in the name. It's gotten us through many a good time and bad, thank you, miss. Hara just stares him down. Is anyone going to intercede, or are they going to let this play out?
As amused I am at the opportunity for a philosophical debate over design philosophies, I think we have a mission to get to.
I would agree. Also, this ship's heart can't be stabbed. So we win.
Hara was ready to put some kind of rebuttal, but then she just looks at Chiyako and goes, "What?" And she, with the help of Denon, hobbles towards the pilot to give them a heading.
You're welcome, Captain.
Thank you, ma'am. He's a little confused, but he understands that he just won the argument somehow and sits back down. And a few minutes later, Alonia's heart rises up and heads out. You're going to touch the upper atmosphere briefly on this voyage, so it's going to be relatively quick. As you're rising into the atmosphere, you have a clear view of the curve of the planet. You see some stars out beyond it. And for the briefest instance, you swear you saw something flash. But it's out of your way at the moment, and you have a tree to save. So you descend back down.
As we see that, Petra is going to go over to the ship's sensor operator. Did you see that flash, crewman?
I did, ma'am. Analyzing now. Artificial, I think it might have been some kind of vessel.
And it was just the sun glinting off of it? Or was there an active energy pulse there?
Presses some buttons, looks at some readings. Whatever it was, it went into the dreaming.
Good to know. Thank you, crewman.
Welcome, ma'am. And on that particular note, you descend down again. And as you are heading there, Alonia's heart races through the atmosphere, and despite the tense silence on the bridge, passage to the coordinates given by Hara is quick. You see the top of the tree before seeing the base. The top is a crown of pinks and reds, its vibrant green trunk rising up from the center of the Kaemon's home, towering 400 feet with its visible roots stretching through every part of the settlement. It would be breathtaking if it weren't for the broken walls and smoking fires choking the air.
Oh dear.
Lovely.
I see. We're getting serious now.
It appears our mercenaries may have obtained their treasure.
Alicia,
Yes, Petra?
would you assume, as I have, that any humans down there are not going to be friendlies?
Given the only other humans on this planet are unaware of this location, they are all at the very least trespassers. Sentence them as you will.
All right, listen up, ladies. Any human that you see down there is a target. Any human you see down there is starting a war between us and the Kaemon. I expect you to treat them as enemy combatants and do not hesitate to fire on them unless they're surrendering.
In unison they go, "Yes, ma'am," and then their helmets close in on their faces. Hara says, "Take us down there. We can get to the edge of the settlement from there. I don't want us flying over the city right now. We don't know what might come after us if we do." The captain nods at the pilot, and the pilot lands you outside the city. As you're disembarking, getting ready to go, Hara says, "Okay, you guys want to open communications with Darshal, our leader? Great. The Kaemon don't want to have to fight the mercenaries, and then you lot. Wouldn't end well for us. However, they're not going to be very trusting of humans or anything resembling a human right now. So I'm going to be your ticket in, or we're going to be your ticket in," she says, indicating herself and Denon. "Neither Denon nor myself are in a position to fight, and so we're going to need you to essentially escort us through the city to the center. Do you have an issue with this?"
Not a bit. This can be easily done.
Petra,
Yeah,
you're going to need to keep your squad back.
we don't want to keep them surrounding our meal ticket here.
If they see a formation marching upon them, they'll assume that it's a military operation with hostages.
Petra looks like she's about to say some kind of smart rebuttal to that. Her mouth opens, she stops. You can see the gears smoking in her brain. She says, "I don't like the idea of leaving them unprotected, however."
I will escort them.
Okay.
You will come slowly on the rear and maintain a protective rear action. If we get overwhelmed in some way, you advance.
Again, she looks like she's going to argue the point and then just nods.
And where would you have me go?
You're a silent luminary, aren't you? Go where you want to.
You should take an outrider position, moving along our flanks and killing anybody that would want to ambush us. As Alyssa says, you already know what you want to do.
Yes, but I am still a guest on this mission, so I was letting you take lead. But I'll do what I want.
So Hara says, "All right, let's get going," and they start hobbling with the help of Denon.
We do not have time for this, Alyssa says as she just sweeps up Hara into a Guess a bridal carry.
Petra orders the squad to take up a double line formation, one on each side of the street, half on one side, half on the other kind of thing. She'll be in the center, keeping overwatch for more distant targets, whereas the women on either side are going to be looking out for closer targets. And then the closest of the two lines will be, Alyssa, you say maybe 15 steps behind behind you and the other ones?
Azu will turn to you and say, as far as you can be and still be in a position to aid if needed.
15 steps it is, I guess.
If you're going to carry me, could you carry me over to that route real quick, she says. The route looks like it's breaking through the ground and pavement, although you think before the issues happened, it might have been naturally going with the grain of the city, or rather the city would have been going with the grain of the route. You take her over there, you lean her down, she puts her hand on the route and she concentrates. For a brief moment, she seems to be in some kind of trance. She opens her eyes, withdraws her hands, says, okay, as I thought, we need to head to the center. Darshal is there. I'm not getting a good impression from him, but we'll see what state he's in when we get there. And from there, you head into the city. Now, regular human mercs would not be an issue, but the real key here is keeping your guests alive. So it's now going to be a clock you need to fill. Yay! First clock of the game. In actuality, it's 2 clocks. There's the clock you need to fill to get your Kaemon friends to the center of the city healthy. And there's the clock that you don't want filled up, which if it fills up before the first clock gets there, bad things will happen. So it's going to be a series of rolls and some descriptive actions as various obstacles come to face you.
You should probably do a description of the clock mechanic.
All right, so for those listening at home and who may or may not know, the clock segments are essentially an extended action or a little in-universe project that the players are working towards doing. They need to fill up the green clock before the red clock fills up, and if they manage to do that, they will have succeeded in their action. And to do this, they make rolls, they describe their actions, and are basically attempting to accomplish a bunch of smaller tasks to succeed at the big task. And the red clock, hopefully doesn't fill up before they fill up the green clock, is essentially the countdown mechanism. So you're going in from the edge of the city, and it's not best. If you were to look at this place, you'd see the architecture, kind of like their armor and weapons. It has that very organic feel. Looking at it, you could see that the city was definitely built up around the tree to follow its curves and to fit it like a glove almost. And now it seems like the glove has been torn to shreds and is just kind of laying on it. It's definitely salvageable, but it will take a while. And as you are going through the city, you hear a as what appears to be combat drones, presumably the mercs, coming at you. Who wants to take the first roll, and what do you do?
If it's alright, I'd like to try to go first.
Go ahead.
I would actually like to cast a ritual.
Ooh, first ritual of the game.
Indeed, since under entropy rituals, I can twist time. Can I do a ritual that speeds at least some of us up?
Yeah, so I'm going to have to say no in this particular case. However, if you want to... One thought that occurs to me is that maybe you could use your entropy ritualism to locally reverse time on a building that the drones are currently in front of, thus blocking their path.
Okay.
You have the ritual in mind. If you want to make your ritual roll, which would be insight and willpower, with a target number of 7, please give that a roll. Huzzah!
16, that's nice.
Indeed.
That is more than double what I needed.
Do you want to describe it, or do you want me to describe it?
I would like you to describe it.
So the drones are incoming. You have a moment to act. You step forward, you draw your 2 daggers, and you form a circle in the air. And as you do, blackish purple energy traces the path and forms a glowing ring. The ring expands briefly and fades out, and then reappears on some destroyed buildings directly in the path of the drones. The wheel spins backwards, crackles a little, and the edifice of the building reverses, reforming itself, and the drones collide with it, giving your group enough time to go forward, and you manage to avoid the drones, thus filling up a segment of your clock.
Who says you can't build in a day?
Petra gets on the radio and says, somewhat distractedly, you didn't really build that, though. That was just kind of repurposing, wasn't it?
Yes, Petra. But it's fun to think I built it.
Oh, right.
Do you ever fantasize about anything? Have dreams?
I never dream.
Please do not banter in the middle of a war zone on our open comms.
Yes, Mother.
Don't call me that.
Father would just be weird.
Don't call me that either. Knock it off. Run an op.
Everyone can take a fabula point. You continue on past where the drones were about to get you. You make your way through. Things aren't necessarily quiet, but they're not noisy where you are. Until, roll me insight and insight, someone.
I can do that.
I can also do that.
You should do that.
Is it open?
No.
No. Alright.
Alright, with the 12, you see them coming. A group of the Void Dragons seems to be coming your way. They are armed, they are apparently hostile. What are you going to do?
Alyssa seen this, she's still transporting
You're still carrying Hara, yes.
Hara. Yes, right. To some potential destination. Carrying Hara makes it very difficult to fight. Alyssa's going to study the surroundings to see if she can find an alternate route to go that will bypass the Void Dragons.
Do they outnumber us?
They do technically outnumber you, yes.
I say we fight them.
How about you engage them and I will find an alternate route and we'll meet up again.
Yeah. Contact front! Fire! Fire!
Alright, in that case, I'm of the impression that Petra's going to be taking the lead on this particular role.
Your impression is correct.
So roll me your dex and might to fend off this particular group of mercenaries.
I'm going to spend 2 or 10 mind points to gain multi-2.
So this isn't going to be a regular straightforward battle. I mean, these are human mercenaries. So instead, this is going to be your role to fill up this particular slot of the wheel.
Can we say that if I use that ability and I succeed, we can fill up 2 things in there?
I'll allow it.
So we got a 14.
These are human mercenaries, typically fairly easy to deal with. They have some good weaponry. If they had been a bit more coordinated or tactical, they might have been able to give you a fight. But you see them, you engage, and you manage to keep your guests safe. Question: they're enemy combatants. Are you going to kill, or are you going for the knockout?
We're going to kill.
They knew the life they were getting into, you could say.
Well, and Petra just can't honestly think of any reason to keep these people in the gene pool, so yeah.
So with that clever use of your skills, you managed to fill up 2 more slots on the clock. Yay! You're actually making some good time. After dealing with the mercenaries and making notes to deal with the bodies later in the appropriate fashions, with the appropriate rituals, you continue on. At this point, how are the characters doing? Are they just in business mode, or are they having thoughts, or...
Alyssa is definitely focusing on getting the individual, the person of interest to the destination, and is definitely taking advantage of Petra being dragged into combat to get as much distance as possible.
In that case, this one's going to happen a little simultaneously, not a lot, but a little simultaneously with dealing with the mercenaries. As you are trying to get some distance between you and them, your footing doesn't feel right, doesn't feel stable, something's wrong, and roll me insight and insight again.
As a note, with the group split, I would say that Chiyako would have gone with Alyssa, since that is the smaller group.
Alright, so you succeeded with a 12. As you're running forward, your footing starts to get unstable, something seems to be trying to keep your feet to the ground, at which point you stop just in time before you run into a trap. In this case, it looks like a large swath of the road, or the path ahead, looks oddly reflective, and as you're looking at it and you're feeling your feet, you realize this is a bunch of sap. Hara looks at you and says, it's a sap pit, it's a defensive trap that triggers when a Kaemon tree is under threat.
It would be very unpleasant to drown in that.
I can imagine it would be.
Alyssa will turn around to face Chiyako, who appears to have teleported in behind her. See, you've chosen to catch up.
I figure they have all the help they need. It's just little old you with these 2.
Alright, so, because I rolled a 13 or higher on a check performed to investigate a creature, item, or location, I get to activate Flash of Insight, where I get to ask up to skill-level questions concerning the subject of your investigation.
Alright.
So that's 1 question. And my question is, what is the safe path to navigate through this?
Your Flash of Insight does show you a correct path. There are some large pieces of debris you can basically hop, skip, and jump across. Since this is a Flash of Insight that kind of automatically allows you to find a path, I'll say this ability gives you 1 automatic success, or to fill up your clock. You can take the safe path given to you by your Path of Insight. However, if you want to fill up 2 slots on your clock instead of just getting the automatic 1, I'll allow you, in which case you need to make a Might and Dexterity roll to take a more dangerous path of debris through the sap trap. Your choice.
Might and dexterity, you say?
Indeed, I do say.
Alyssa is going to take a long sigh, and noting to herself, time is of the essence, she will take the more dangerous route.
All right. Might and dexterity.
That's a 10.
For the more dangerous route, that unfortunately was not enough.
What was the difficulty?
The difficulty was going to be hard. So the difficulty was going to be 13.
13. I'm going to spend a fable point to invoke a theme of Angry Perfectionist.
The angry perfectionist is not going to let the tree sap get the better of her.
She is angry and she is annoyed that it
Don't
has
let it
come
hold
to
you
this.
down.
All right, this is the reroll invoke.
This is the reroll 11 traps.
You can also use your neo-human quirk.
That only applies to conflict scenes.
I think you're having a conflict with the sap right now.
GM?
I'm going to say no, because for a conflict scene, I'd say it would need to be something that's very either active on it in its own right or has a mind behind it.
Quick, Hana, punch her.
Hana looks at you. Why?
Gives her motivation.
Hana just looks up at Alyssa and just does like this light little tap on your helmet faceplate. Was that enough, or do you want me to break my hand?
Why are you hitting me while I'm sinking into the sap?
I don't know. Your sister told me to punch you.
Chiyako,
Yes?
take her and keep going while I get myself out of this sap.
All right, so that fills up one slice on the clock that you don't want filled up. Dun dun dun.
So, can we assume that I've taken Hana and I am across, yes?
Yes. Using the safe route, you managed to get her across.
Can I just use my entropic ritualism to teleport Alyssa out of the sap?
You can, yes.
I'm gonna do that.
All right, willpower and insight. And you are keeping track of your mind points, yes?
How much did the last one cost me, to be honest?
The last one cost you 20.
Then yes, I do have 30. I am left with 1 point left.
Okay, don't lose that.
I will cease using magic from here on out.
All right, roll the insight and willpower check.
I had gotten an 11.
Oh, that was a successful roll.
Wonderful.
You stretch forth one of your daggers, make a slicing motion in the air while uttering some words, and Alyssa just kind of sinks down and then finds herself plopping on solid ground.
Chiyako,
You're welcome.
if you keep casting spells like this, you're going to lose consciousness.
You know, kind of making me a little lightheaded. I like the feeling.
You shouldn't. Let's get going.
And you
Is that
can.
about the time that Petra and her squad come running up?
You're all together again, yes. And you continue onward. The whole incident with the sap has caused you to lose time, and you're hoping to make it up when explosions start ringing out around you. Up on a ridge, you see two humans in the middle of casting spells, and it looks like those explosions just beforehand, they're being aimed at you. Who wants to take point on solving this little particular conundrum?
Petra would like to solve this with a little bit of application of some finesse. Finesse being what she writes on her ammunition.
I was just going to say that seems so out of character for her, but continue.
She's going to take a knee. She's going to do the double shot thing again. And the way I see this playing out is she gets down on the knee and she just focuses the rest of the world out. Her squad kind of just fades away doing their thing. Alyssa doing her accountant fireman thing. Chiyako being weird. All of that just sort of fades into the background, and all she has is the scope on her rifle and two targets. And she takes a deep breath, lets it out, and squeezes the trigger a couple times.
She is in her element. Might plus dex plus whatever cost for your multi-ability, I assume you're doing?
Yep, shot gets a 12.
So you go into your Zen state, raise Clarabella, and double tap the trigger, sending out 2 rounds from your rail rifle and into the opposing mages. And with the superhuman quickness of this involved, from an outside perspective, it almost seems like you just knelt down, and they also knelt down to match you. But in this case, they're dead on the ground. Huzzah, you fill up another piece of the clock.
The world kind of rushes back in, like time had slowed for her, and then all the sounds like speed up in her mind, and she looks momentarily disoriented as that happens. Just the perception of time slowing down and then speeding up again always throws her for a second or two.
Hara leans to Alyssa. Is that one all right?
Yes, as long as you accept that there's nothing left.
She says. You're more than halfway to the center of the city at this point. The Kaemon tree looms above you, its canopy shading you. If it weren't for the war zone, it would actually be quite beautiful.
Funny how that works out.
As you're taking this in and moving forward, you hear a slight clicking sound. And as you do, I'm going to need another insight check from one of you.
I'll do it. Any modifiers?
Not in this instance, no.
A 10.
Success. That clicking sound is you almost, but not quite, fully triggering some hidden explosives left in your path. Now, you haven't set anything off, but you do realize if you move funny, you might. Who wants to take care of this?
Petra looks over at Alyssa. I'll hold our friend here. You need to take care of that?
Alyssa takes a deep sigh, reaches out the lovely person-shaped tree she has been transporting.
Yeah, I'll pick up the ally.
You take Hara into your arms. Based off everything that's happened so far, she just kind of looks at you, unsure, but goes with it.
Alyssa is going to look around. Have we all stepped on landmines? Or just Chiyako at the point?
Chiyako at point.
Lovely.
And this role is going to be to help Chiyako as well as disarming the other ones that you now see around you.
So Alyssa is going to pull out the handle of her light hammer. And she is going to stab at the dirt around the mines and use that to leverage them out of place.
All right. Give me insight and dexterity.
With that roll of 9, I will spend a fabula point to invoke Angry Perfectionist.
You will not explode, not on my watch.
We'll see.
It's just a leg or two.
I mean, Petra's already lost one. You guys can be twinsies.
That's just what Alyssa wants.
What's the difficulty of this?
I was going to say it was hard, and you succeeded.
There we go.
So with a little bit of grace, with a little bit of finesse, and a whole lot of concentration, you managed to dig the mines out and clear a path for yourself. And luckily, no one blew up.
My hero.
Yes. Now please check before you step into a minefield again.
Not quite all there at the moment.
After dealing with the mines, you are now at the center of the city. The Kaemon tree looms ahead and above you, and you are heading to what seems to be a building built at the base of the tree. Its doors are blown open. Surrounding the door seems to be a group of Kaemon who are guarding it. They see you approaching. Their weapons are raised. They haven't quite noticed Hara and Denon yet, so they look poised to attack. How are you going to get by them without killing them?
Chiyako's gonna look back to our Kaemon companions. Would either of you like to take the lead on this predicament?
Petra, do you still have Hara?
I do.
At which point Hara says, forward mount.
I will present her to her companions, holding her out.
They're not with the humans who attacked us. They're here to help, she says. They look at her disbelieving. For all they know, she could be a hostage being forced to say this. In this case, if Hara were a player, she would be the one to make the roll for this. She's an NPC, and I don't necessarily want to make a roll for the NPC in this instance. So why don't I have one of you make that roll? Let's make it a willpower and willpower on her part. Who would like to roll it?
I'll do it. A 12.
All right, between how you're being held and perhaps her role within the city, they believe her, at which point they lower their weapons and say, Darshal was fighting their leader inside. We have not heard back from him.
Just one mercenary inside with one of your warriors?
We were instructed to watch the door from any other mercenaries. We haven't received the signal from him.
One mercenary. I'll see you in a minute. And she just puts her down and starts walking off towards the door.
Do the rest of you follow?
Chiyako's gonna signal for the other stalwart grove to join the Kaemon here in guarding before following Petra.
They take up positions. There's some uneasy quiet between the Kaemon and the Grove Sisters, but the Kaemon accept it. And what does Alyssa do?
Alyssa is going to grab her nose and close her eyes while holding it tightly for a bit. And after a long sigh, she enters, muttering that someone has to keep an eye on the situation.
And with that, the three of you enter the center of the Kaemon's home, going under the roots of their tree itself. Going through this building, it might be the Kaemon equivalent of a town hall, a central meeting place of some kind. It's laid out as you might expect, hallways, side rooms, large central room where most of the big meetings or ceremonies might take place. And you do see signs of battle as you move along. And following them, they lead you to that central room, and then into the hallway beyond it, seemingly going deeper into what you might think are the confines of the tree. And eventually, you see some spilled sap-like substance that you have come to learn is Kaemon blood. Following the blood, you're in a back room that has no windows, but does have a giant hole in the wall going into some unworked earth beyond. And lying near that hole, you see what appears to be another Kaemon. This one, however, is bleeding out. What do you do?
Petra has her rifle up. She's been walking through this place with her rifle to her shoulder, scanning the spaces, ready to shoot at anything that looks human, ironically. And we see the Kaemon on the ground, and without turning around, without looking, without changing her eyes, can one of you look to his safety?
Yes, I will.
And then Petra will stay on Overwatch.
Chiyako's gonna go to his side and assess the damage.
Parts of him have been shot, other parts look like they've been clawed at, but he's not dead yet. If you want to make a dexterity and insight, or if you're just going to do this through sheer gumption, I'd be willing to say dexterity and will, whichever works for you. If you want to stabilize him and try to bring him around,
I prefer dexterity and insight.
well, then use dexterity and insight.
I will. A16.
You succeed handily. You patch him up. Perhaps you got some notes from Danu before you set out, but you manage to stem the bleeding and even rouse him to consciousness. What? And he sees your helmeted visages and immediately goes for a weapon that isn't there.
Easy now. We're hunting the ones that did this.
Who are you?
I'm glad you asked. I'm Chiyako of the Silent Luminaries. My companions over there are Petra of the Stalwart Grove and Alyssa of the Daughters of Harmony. We came with a couple of yours as well, such as Hana.
Hara managed to bring Evzanoi here? He says, a bit confused, probably suffering from some blood loss. It's odd he's using an older word for it, but he has been described as the first of Hadris, and he does, if you're able to hazard a guess, look to be older than Hara.
I would say it is less she has brought us here, and more after being captured in a raid, we compared notes and realized that perhaps there is a third party involved in this conflict.
Well, what's that expression? If it rains, it pours?
If one wishes to be dramatic about it, yes.
Well, if you're going after the one who did this to me, she went down that way after dealing with me and blasting a hole in the wall.
Petra starts moving.
Chiyako, is this individual going to be fine if we leave them here?
I believe so, but perhaps I should take him up to his companions and then rejoin with you.
Catch up quickly.
Always.
We need to make sure Petra doesn't just cave in someone's skull when we need to ask them questions.
I mean, how often can you stop that from happening? She's saying this as she's literally lifting up this guy.
Going to find out, I think.
Good luck.
Chiyako quickly manages to deposit Darshal, and they start tending to him, and you manage to catch up. However, Chiyako, as you are stepping over the threshold, your magic sense starts going off. Something doesn't feel right about this place. Roll me insight and insight. An open roll.
Would be an 11.
Not only does it not feel right, you felt this feeling before, although admittedly much more intensely. You fought yokai before, foul otherworldly beings. And this is that same feeling, although much more muted, more like an echo. There was something malignant and supernatural in this place. You don't know what it is, but you have no choice but to go forward from here. And it's at that point you catch up with the other two.
Lisa, Petra, there's a very dark energy here.
We know. That's why we're going to shoot it.
Why we're going to arrest it, Petra.
The dark energy is not the leader of the Light Dragons?
Well, maybe whoever has been causing the chaos in this place might know about this darkness, and we can ask them.
Well, the Kaemon did say that this tree was guarding something, yes?
There's a slight problem in your plan to arrest this person.
I swear to the Queen, Petra, if the problem with my plan is you're going to kill them,
We're on the same page. Good.
we will not kill them because we need to know who hired them.
Fine.
Then you can kill them.
No, then there'll be a prisoner, and that will be ceremonies. No.
I tried.
Petra's still got her rifle up, and she's still scanning the area as she walks forward, and she's talking without taking her eyes off of anything. If we have to take someone in alive, then I'll obviously do my duty. But if whoever this leader is, puts up much of a fight, I'm going to do what I have to do to protect you two. even if you don't much like it.
And on that almost sentimental note, you continue down the passage.
Almost sentimental.
Luckily, the path down doesn't diverge overly much. There's the occasional side passage here or there, and as you're going down, it goes from earthen stone to worked stone. And as you go into the worked stone segment of this underground place, you see a mural on the wall showing a battlefield littered with the bodies of host sisters. Standing above a broken battlesuiter robot is another sister with long dark hair wearing the colors of the silent luminaries. Chiyako, you don't specifically recognize who this person is. However, you do recognize what she is wielding. The mural doesn't do it justice, but every silent luminary recognizes this weapon. It is a glaive of intricate craftsmanship, symbols of your homeworld running down it, with a gleaming silver blade, bearing the symbol of your host where the blade and haft meet. You recognize this as the glaive of your annex mother, Hikaru Michi. And while the woman wielding it in the mural is not Hikaru Michi, if she is wielding it, this tells you one very important thing. Whoever this woman is, she was a marshal of your host, the marshal being the head, the very top of the top, because that relic is only ever wielded, except maybe under very unusual circumstances, by the marshal of the silent luminaries.
Now, to be clear, I'm seeing a carving, correct?
You're seeing a mural on the wall.
Right.
Is it painted?
Yes, touched with age, but still very present.
I'm sorry.
Sorry?
I'm sorry. Is this why you were placed onto this mission?
No, I didn't know this was here, but I know what that is. She points to the glaive.
Point of clarification. Did anybody place Chiyako on this mission? Or was she just kind of here?
The commander of your garrison asked her to join you while she tried to get in contact with the silent luminaries in the Reach.
Right. Okay.
That is the glaive of Hikaru Michi. That is a very powerful weapon.
It was the founder of the Silent Luminaries, correct?
Yes, but the one wielding it is not her.
And then who is it?
I don't know, but the only ones allowed to wield such a weapon would be marshals of the luminaries. So I assume one of them. I would have to look into it.
Alicia is going to stare at Chiyako a bit with her eyes narrowed. There's a lot of happenstances just kind of lining up in a row here.
I would agree with that, but I can assure you it's very much unintended.
That's great, but the glaive isn't actually here. The Hikaru Michi isn't actually here. All we got is a picture on the wall. Let's find something to shoot, to arrest, and get on with it.
You're assuming that it's not here. Let's move. Before we leave, Alicia's going to check her photographic memory when reading up on this place. There's no mentioning that any part of the queendom has been here before, right?
Off the top of your head, not that you recall. You might need to do some deeper research, but according to the records you had access to, no.
Right.
Can Chiyako take some scans and photographic evidence of this?
Oh yes, quite readily.
Also a selfie?
Yes, quite readily.
Excellent.
You leave the mural behind, and you reach what appears to be a central chamber. As you're coming up to the entrance of it, you hear a sound coming from within. Sounds like the pained grunts of a woman.
Is it just through an open doorway, or...?
It's an open passage, yeah, it's an arch. Are you attempting to be stealthy, or are you just gonna walk in?
I'm just gonna walk in.
Crouching
right behind her.
at the center of this room seems to be some kind of translucent metal containment unit. Control panels on one side and an empty center. It seems to have been broken open when attempts to bypass it in a more sophisticated manner failed. And crouching in front of it is a brunette-haired woman. Her exact frame almost seems to be shifting as you look at her, and she is groaning and it sounds pained. And on her hands seems to be Kaemon blood.
Is she the one I sense the dark energy from, or is it something else?
Roll me insight and willpower.
Ouch, a 4.
That's not good.
Let me see if I can do something about that real quick.
Use your horde, Luke.
Yes, I will use 1 Fabula point, and I'm going to invoke my identity as the Scalpel of the Queen.
Very nice. Roll again.
Not doing so hot. However, since the number I got this time was a 7, That means I can use a particular entropist ability that I've been waiting to use.
Ooh, please, go ahead.
As an entropist, I have an ability called Lucky 7. This is where, at the beginning of each session, my number that is lucky starts off as a 7. Once per scene after I perform a check, I may replace the value shown on one of my dice that I've rolled with my lucky number. I would like to replace my 3 with a 7.
All right.
And that will make my total an 11.
All right. You're looking at her. She is not the source of this aura that you've been feeling. She does, however, seem to have been touched by it.
The dark aura then would be coming from the box?
That also seems to have a similar touch to it, but the source of the aura does not seem to be here. What you're feeling are echoes.
She's been touched by the aura. It might be changing her. Be aware.
The more I learn, the more and more I dislike everything I am learning. Perhaps I can inquire. Are you the leader of the Void Dragons?
Her head snaps up at you, eyes going wide. She goes, I'm Bryn Chelgath, and everyone gets a fabula point because the villain have made their entrance.
Nice.
I'm Bryn Chelgath. I lead the Void Dragons.
Good. Wish to inquire some questions with you?
I don't answer to you, she says, and her left arm almost seems to swell up and then go down again.
We'll advise you are currently sharing the room with 3 host sisters.
One of whom has a very large gun pointed at your forehead.
Roll me willpower and willpower.
I got a 9.
It's an exceptional god-awful roll. I'm going to re-roll that. I'm going to invoke Origin with Pragmanian Governor's Daughter.
Nice.
I could be more intimidating this. What am I doing?
Take a +1 bonus from Petra's roll. I'll say she's assisting you.
Did I succeed?
For an assisting roll, yes, you succeeded.
Much better. That is 11.
Say your piece and get it over with, she says, as one of her eyes suddenly turns reptilian and then back to human.
We've come here to investigate a alteration between the colonists in this planet and a, at the time, unknown Kaemon settlement on the planet. Via investigations, we've discovered an organization, the Void Dragons, appear to have been conducting clandestine operations to cause the 2 communities to come into conflict with each other.
Nothing in the contract said no collateral.
Interesting you bring that up. I have 2 basic important questions for you. 1, who hired you? And 2, what were you hired to do?
Don't know the exact identity of my employer. It comes with the business. And as for the other thing, well, let's say I do have some idea of discretion.
Well, let me share you this discretion. The difference between us dragging you in to be arrested and you cooperating with the arrest will probably have a major impact on the consequences you will be facing for this.
I'm already facing the consequences, she says. As she lifts her arm, the flesh on it bulges, and you see the flesh is shifting, and there also seems to be some mechanical implants that seems to be reweaving itself through her musculature.
What did you do?
My employer didn't tell me there'd be side effects.
It seems there are consequences to having a client who is effectively anonymous.
Most people who hire mercenaries don't want it getting out that they're hiring mercenaries. Especially mercenaries with our reputation.
Indeed. Well, regardless, I suspect you might wish to see medical treatment for your affliction as soon as possible. So perhaps you should begin cooperating so we can get you to those services sooner than later.
Let me respond to that with this. And it's time for initiative.
I was going to say, can Petra just shoot as soon as she says I respond to that with this? I mean, I have my gun out. I'm already pointing it at her.
I'll let you have 1 free attack before we go into proper initiative.
Okay.
Also, during that discussion, I would like to finally spend those item points to get that elixir, because I haven't done it yet.
Okie dokie. You press the button on your armor, and the elixir stimulant floods into your system, refreshing your mind, and thus getting 50 mind points back.
Chiyako sighs with a heavy relief, and then her expression returns to being as sharp and focused as before.
All right, Petra, take your shot.
I'll take my shot. I got a 15
That is a hit.
for 20 damage, and I am aiming at her head.
You shoot her head, it does damage, but it does not penetrate all the way through. And now it's time for initiative. Who's taking the lead on that?
Chiyako.
Alrighty.
Okay, so Rin, you got a 15 total, but Ira, you got a critical on your assist check.
Oh, hello.
What opportunity would you like to take? And I'll say you can have this opportunity, aid whoever is going to go first.
I am going to spend the opportunity to obtain a bond.
Bond with who?
Chiyako.
Ooh.
And what is the nature of this bond?
The bond is affection.
Oh.
He likes me. He really likes me.
Don't push it.
And hates me too.
Like a lot of people, she loves and hates you. I assume you're going to be the first to attack, Chiyako?
I think, because how far are we away from our perpetrator?
How close did you get, Alyssa?
She would have approached close enough to have a normal conversation where you don't need to be screaming at each other, so probably well within the range to charge someone with a knife before they could draw a gun.
All right. Then as for how close you were, Chiyako, that's up to you.
Chiyako will start things off with a darting dash forward and a stab.
I love the image that, like, I had a gun pointed at her and shot, but, like, you were so eager to stab her that you're just, like, right on top of it already.
I mean, I'll move behind her afterwards. Interesting.
That is a miss. You do have that horde, however, if you want to try again.
If I could, instead, my Fury class has Frenzy ability, and this might be one of the few times I can activate it, considering it's based on doubles.
What does the ability do?
Your accuracy checks with brawling, daggers, flails, and thrown weapons trigger a critical success if both dice show the same number.
Oh, that's really
And the
good.
check is not a fumble.
All right, critical success.
You automatically succeed. You hit. You also get an opportunity.
So it's going to be 7 damage plus an opportunity.
I would like to give our enemy an affliction.
What affliction would that be?
Our current enemy, does it look like she has a weapon on hand right now?
She does have a gun, but then her hands are also twisted into claws, it looks like. Metallic claws.
I think I want to inflict weakness on her then. And then I'm going to move around behind her to, that way I don't get pew-pewed by Petra.
So, you stab. The damage you do isn't the best, however, you manage to get her in a critical spot, which cuts a tendon and manages to reduce her strength, afflicting the weak condition.
At least this part of her human anatomy is the same.
Alright, now it is her turn. You stabbed her, so you're right next to her. Alyssa is right next to her. Petra hasn't fired yet, so she's not dealing with that just yet.
I did.
Right, yes. In that case, she looks at you, Petra. Her eyes glow in a almost mechanical way, and she mutters some words and afflicts you with a curse. She got a 7. She starts muttering the words to you, the eyes flicker and glow. You almost feel something starting to affect your body, but you manage to shake it off. And that is her turn. Next is the heroines. Who's going next?
I shall move forward.
I can break her armor with my attack if that would help you.
It would make her easier to hit. So sure,
You do that?
break
Okay.
the armor.
Okay, so we talked about this one last time. I'm going to use an action and spend 5 mind points, and that allows me to perform a free attack with the melee weapon I have equipped, which in most cases is going to be my cybernetic leg.
All
I
right.
attack a single creature. If I'm successful, it deals no damage, and I choose one option. I destroy one shield equipped by the target, I destroy their equipped armor, or whenever the target suffers damage from a source before the start of my next turn, it deals 4 extra damage to them. Alyssa, which one would you prefer, more damage or no armor?
No armor.
Okay. I'm assuming a 6 does not hit.
Correct. I assume you're going to spend a fabula point?
You assume correctly. So I'm going to invoke no distractions, only war, which is my identity, and do it again. Well, that's a little better. I got a 14 now.
That is a hit, yes.
See, I'm going to destroy their armor.
You crack through the metal lacing through her flesh, exposing it, making her a bit more tender.
And what this looks like is she just is holding her weapon. She just kind of pulls up her arms to get a better look, and then just does this giant raised leg stomp down kind of thing on her.
And it lets out a very sickening crunch. Next is her turn. she is going to hobble away a little bit, and she is going to use her gun that seems to be kind of integrating itself into her arm and attempt a multi-attack. And she's going to put that towards Petra and Chiyako.
My defense is 12.
My defense is 11.
All right, so she hit Chiyako for 17.
Chiyako stumbles a few steps backwards, clutching the where the bullet pierced her.
All right, so since Alyssa is using her transhuman ability, me as the Royal Herald has one opportunity pocketed, and I'm going to spend that. In this case, I'm going to say that the shot that hit you and forced you back also knocked your daggers out of your hand. And now it falls to Alyssa's turn.
While the woman who appears to be mutating into some kind of cat demon, I guess? Not sure. Regardless, while she is distracted, Alyssa is going to close the grab and take a whack at her with Thine Hammer.
You press the button, the energy around the hammer forms it into its bigger hammer form.
Yep. She ignites the hard light hammer, charges, and she attacks. Does a 12 hit.
12 hits, yes.
She takes 24 light damage.
Ow. Not down yet, but you guys have taken a noticeable chunk out of her. Alright, it's her last turn before we go back to the start of round 2. She is going to tear at you, Alyssa. She attempts to claw at you, and she misses. Top of the order, PC's turn. Who's going? Doesn't have to be the same order as last time.
Someone to do something? Because if Alyssa goes, she's just going to give him a second taste of the hammer.
I'm good going first or last or middle or whatever. It's up to you guys.
All right. I'll hit her with the hammer then. I assume a 14 hits if a 12 hit last time?
Yep.
So not as heavy a blow as last time, just 22 this time.
Just 22.
Just 22.
Just 22. But still, you hit her for another resounding crack. An almost squishy crack in this case, as you manage to hit some more flesh rather than the metal. And it almost ripples as you do so.
Your pride may be pushing you to continue fighting, but it is also what's going to lead you to your death. Surrender now!
She is going to spend an Ultima point to remove the condition that you afflicted her with, or with the status you have afflicted her with. So you see that spot where you stabbed her? While it doesn't heal all the damage, you can see tissues and synapses reconnecting.
So she is no longer weak?
Correct.
Chiyako grits her teeth in actual annoyance.
And she's going to try to do a multi-ranged attack again. I assume a 14 hits you?
Who are you targeting?
You.
Yep.
That's going to be 18 points.
Is she aiming at anyone else?
Oh, right, yes, it was a multi. In that case, she's going to go for Petra. Does a 14 hit you, Petra?
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be 18 points to you as well. And now it's to the PC's turn.
Rin, do you want to do your thing?
Remember, you dropped your daggers.
Would this be a spot where she could spend a fabula point to pick them up more quickly?
I believe doing something like picking up a weapon is actually basically part of the narrative. The lost item feature doesn't disarm you, it destroys it. Something happens to the weapon that you can't get it back.
In that case, to balance out the loss of the opportunity I spent earlier, I'll say you can spend the Fabula point to quickly recover your daggers, and then proceed as normal.
Let's see if I can find another soft spot to hit. The attack was a 14.
As was the damage. You do readily manage to hit a soft spot. Alright, it's her turn. She is going to try to curse again. This time she is going to try to curse Chiyako. What's your magic defense?
It is an 11.
And with a 12, she manages to curse you. She looks into your eyes and just penetrates deep.
Remind me, what does this curse do to me?
As her gaze reaches into your mind, it slows down your limbs or slows down your reflexes. Thus, you take the slowed condition. Your dexterity is temporarily reduced by 1 die size. Now it falls to Petra.
I'm going to maneuver a little bit to get a good angle, and then I'm going to shoot.
Okay.
I hit a 13 and do 19 damage.
That is a hit, and that is good damage. As that last attack lands, it hits her flesh and ripples out. She grows up 2 sizes, shrinks down 2 sizes. Her skin turns rough and then turns jagged. And then she screams, "Enough! Enough! Make it stop!"
If you stopped fighting, maybe we could.
Alright, you want me to say it? I surrender. For a second, you can start to hear her bones shift and move around.
You don't really expect us to buy that, do you?
I've stopped attacking. I'm surrendering. What more do you want from me?
Chiyako, remove her weapons.
I don't think some of them can be removed from her body like this without... I suppose I could perform surgery.
We're not conducting surgery. We have a clue what the heck we are performing surgery on.
Chiyako's gonna take what she can from our capturee and tie her up. I would like to use my ritual magic to dispel a curse.
In that case, insight and willpower, and this is going to be a normal difficulty. As you're binding her, you trace some runes on her shifting flesh, speak words of calm and stillness, and then her flesh stops moving. It hasn't reverted, but it stops moving outside of her control.
There we go. I hope that feels a little better.
Yes, it does. I feel like a lead weight, but I don't feel like a molten lead weight.
Order your men to cease their siege upon the community above.
She jerks her head in a certain way. It almost seems like she's trying to press a button with her head, but the button she's trying to press is underneath her skin. And then you hear her mumbling something, and then she goes, "All right, it's done." I assume you withdraw her from there?
Let's escort her to the surface. We'll figure out what to do with her there.
You half escort, half drag her to the surface. The Kaemon and the other host sisters are up there. They see her. They train points on her, but they do not fire.
Ashlyn, report. What's going on up here? What's the status?
All sounds of distant combat have ceased, and we've noticed vehicles withdrawing from the settlement. There have been no further attacks.
Make sure they all leave the city. If they refuse, either press the point or take them prisoner.
We'll begin a sweep, and the sisters depart.
Take some Kaemon with you. Not everyone knows that we're on their side.
Acknowledged.
Chiyako's gonna lag behind, and he wants to see what was in the box.
You're looking at the box. It's definitely some kind of containment unit. Looking at it, whatever was in here was probably about the size of your chest plate. Beyond that, you're not sure what was in here, however.
Chiyako's gonna take some scans, pictures, and other readings of the crate, and
You take the scans, you take the pictures, and you can parse through those later.
then she's gonna go and catch up with the other two, and upon leaving this particular tree building, almost like a switch goes off in her head with the danger more or less past, and she gets her smile back.
Back with the others, so I assume you want information, she says?
I want a lot of things, but information's a good start.
Well, as I said before, who hired me? I don't know. I was hired through an intermediary. That's kind of how these things go. By the time you arrived, I had already sent what we were after ahead.
That was the ship that left for the dreaming.
Apparently.
As for where it's going, well, it's going to a planet called Akash.
Convenient you know that.
Is that where the intermediary is located?
Either the intermediary or whoever the intermediary is hiring to pick it up.
So, how did, she gestures to the mutations, this happen?
Looking at her, you can tell that she obviously has some mods, some implants. It's not unheard of in fighting forces for soldiers to mod themselves or implant themselves. Sometimes it's tech, sometimes it's gene. It happens. So I opened up the container that had the item we were after, and my mods were always a bit unstable, I admit, but they gave me higher performance that way. Whatever that was, I don't know, triggered some kind of cascade effect in my mods and triggered whatever this was. It affected my tech mods as well as my gene mods, and now I'm like this.
Whatever
What a
that
real
was.
shame. Petra mutters a little too loudly, perhaps.
Perhaps. Whatever it was. Did you not recognize the item you picked up in your own hands?
I knew it was a piece of tech. I didn't realize it was a piece of tech that merely touching it would bend and break my body.
Well, describe it. Was it a black box?
It was some kind of processing unit that would be in a robot or a combat suit.
Ah. And how, may I ask, did you get it to the client? You get it to the courier.
We had a shuttle ready to go. As soon as I verified it, I sent it out and they departed from here to go deliver it. We were supposed to follow. The client wanted as soon as possible, and, well, you don't attack a city and not do some looting while you're at it.
So a lack of professionalism is what got you in trouble.
It is what it is, she says.
Spoken like a true sociopath.
I wonder if the courier has melted into their ship yet.
Then it's a good thing I didn't go with them.
That was the dark aura I was talking about.
Yes. Regardless, this little criminal enterprise of yours is over. Inform your people that they are to surrender themselves to the colony immediately, or else we will send host sisters in to forcibly persuade them into surrendering.
That means me, Buttercup.
She sends the signal, and from there, the Void Dragons gather at a point near the colony and formally surrender. What are you going to do with them?
We need to call in a ship to pick up a large number of criminals. We're raiding a colony. Also, probably need specialists to deal with this curse thing. Definitely don't want that spreading.
The garrison that you flew from sends in some support ships, and the Void Dragons are rounded up. Danu begins an initial assessment of Bryn to try to figure out what's going on, to see what can be fixed and what can't. Some specialists come in to help her in that. The colony is immensely grateful that this is over, and the Kaemon are also immensely glad that this is over.
We should probably also host a conference between the leaderships of the two groups so we can start a peace process for shared administration of the planet, or to at least work out who's allowed to do what with what, and then leave it to them to figure out the rest.
You begin preparations, and as that is going on,
As Alyssa says we should host a conference, you guys hear, oh God, coming from Petra, and then she just quietly walks out of the room. If anybody checks on her, you find that she has taken some host sisters with her into the wilderness to hunt down these stragglers. And of course, like the woman you all know and love, she hasn't really given any indication that that's what she's going to be doing.
So you're there for the next few days. All this is happening. Ships come in, talks between the Kaemon and the colony start commencing. The Kaemon are firmly of the mind that they will withdraw to where they were, especially since the colony doesn't seem to know where they are, and continue to wait the colony out. Because at one point, someone asked the question, well, why didn't you say anything or do anything to us up to this point? And Darshal says that human colonies fail frequently. We didn't feel we needed to do anything. We just wait until your colony failed and you left. Not the most friendly position, but still not aggressive. And the colonists feel that they can still work with this. After that gets going, however, Commander Kinnett of the Starboard Grove host garrison that you departed from has words for you. And she gathers the three of you together on her ship. Good work, all of you. I was not expecting a mercenary company to, well, try to foment a little war in order to clear things up for them. But the Void Dragons are being dealt with as is appropriate to their crimes. However, what they were going after is concerning. I've been in communications with the Daughters of Harmony that are in the Reach, and I've made my attempts to find the Silent Luminaries. I have heard rumor that they are towards the galactic edge. Apparently they were hunting a monster that had come in from beyond the edge. As you might recall, the Kypernian Reach is actually situated on the edge and is known for monsters coming in. So the fact that the Silent Luminaries would be out there after them is not surprising. Still no exact location, but it's a beginning. However, in light of the recent events, I have talked to the commander of the Daughters of Harmony, as well as made some entreaties with the Morning Vigilance, who have a permanent garrison at the edge. And we've determined you three will be assigned to investigate what's going on with this and put an end to it, or call in further help as needed.
I'm sorry, we're what?
You two will be forming a permanent squad, or at the very least a persisting squad, and finding out what's going on with this relic, cursed piece of machinery, and deal with it.
We made such a good team. They want us to keep going. Isn't it great, Alyssa?
But, Captain, I was in the middle of operations performing duties that were important. I can't just be simply replaced.
Yeah, he
Mission
was
like that.
being an accountant, and we were getting ready for war.
It's been
Look,
determined...
I'm missing out on the Leviathan hunt. Okay? That's far worse than what you two are dealing with.
After conversing with your commander, your leadership in this instance has proved exemplary, and your ability to wrangle Petra, as well as Chiyako, has been deemed a vital asset on this.
Only because I let you.
And I have to protest. Wrangle?
Petra, my sister, you of all people should know that you can be difficult to work with.
Not when I'm paired up with warriors. I mean, no offense, Alyssa, but, I mean, yeah.
Does that mean the offense was only towards me?
That's an unkind interpretation of my... Oh, man.
Congratulations.
Hooray!
Now, you won't be alone. You'll be given use of Alonia's heart as a means to get around. The crew will be under your command, although I do suggest leaning into Captain Leofred's experience. He's been with the auxiliary for a number of decades. You'll have wide operational freedom with the occasional directive or report in from us. And that's where we'll leave it for now. Congratulations, everyone. You've passed the beginning part of the adventure. Yay!
Yay!
As the scene fades out, they kind of do the anime thing of, like, you know, seeing each of the characters, and I know my character's name, Petra, is just looking back and forth at the thought of having to work with an accountant and a psycho with a great deal of dismay, cartoonish dismay almost.
I'm almost thinking like the end of every original Star Trek episode, except Chiyako's the only one laughing at the end and everyone else is like Spock, all stone-faced.
Freeze frame, you're the only one laughing.
Yes.
That is beautiful, Rin. I love it.
Thank you.
Well, all of you, thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed. I hope my players enjoyed. I think they did.
I had a good time.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I hated it. It was I liked it.
tune in next time for their continuing adventures as they are now let off the leash. They're out of the starter area. Please do the YouTube things, like and subscribe, and we will see you next time, subjects.
What?